No object has intrinsic value. No object. No object has intrinsic value at all. The value we put on the object on this planet is based on some type of projected value, or value that we believe it has value because of its rarity or certain qualities it has. Example, gold is more valuable than aluminum. Why? It's supposed to be more rare. So silver is more better than steel because it's more rare. So no object itself has any intrinsic value, meaning from its side it has some kind of value except the value we have placed on it. So for Mahasiddhas, whether you offer them gold or whether you offer them steel, to them it has no intrinsic value. That's why they have no attachments to any physical things. People who have a lot of attachment, they are always operating on the basis of projections. They operate from projections, to projections, out of projections, and within projection. So they're always operating within projection. And people who operate within projection a lot, they have a lot of miserly energy. Miserly energy, selfish energy, energy to save, to get, to hold, to touch, to have wealth, is basically arising from people who do not believe that objects do not. They believe that objects have intrinsic value. Objects only have intrinsic value if our projections believe that. So people who meditate on what I just said and think about that clearly, they can cut their object of miserliness. They can be unmiserly. That's why you see very enlightened beings, or you see advanced beings, or you see kind beings of every race, national, gender, and background, and religious background. They have no attachments to intrinsic or not. They have no attachments toward valuable things. You know, you'll see high lamas, they just spend their money like that. The way they get it, they just spend it. Why? They don't attach any intrinsic value to it because they have no attachment. And similarly, you'll see people who, if they have a little bit of money, they'll just put it away. They won't touch it. They won't do anything. They won't share. They won't do nothing. Why? They're very attached to it. Attachment to value, attachment to objects that you think have intrinsic value is a clear sign of a very miserly mind. Very, very miserly mind. That type of mind is very dangerous. Why? It affects their spiritual practice. It is very difficult for them to advance in spiritual practice. Why? Their miserly attachments will not only extend to material objects, it will extend emotionally, it'll extend to time, it'll extend to effort, it'll extend to everything that will bring them to enlightenment. Everything. Anything that will bring them to enlightenment, they will be miserly about. And what they don't realize is the very cause of miserliness, or the very cause of losing or not having, is miserliness. So what happens is no object has intrinsic value on its own. No value. But that is on an ultimate level. On an ultimate level, no objects have intrinsic value. But on a relative level, objects have value. Example, a US dollar is worth more than the Indonesian rupiah. You know, you want 10 US dollars or 10 rupiah. Thank you very much, dollars. But my point is, on a relative level, it has intrinsic value. So since our level of attainments and our level is on a samsaric level, which is relative, we operate on a relative level. So then we use relativity, or we use relative objects to get to the absolute. So let me make it clear. Since we operate on a relative level, we use these objects to reach an absolute level. What does that mean? Gold and brass. This is brass, this is gold. It's exactly the same to an enlightened mind. But we are not enlightened. For us, we value this more. For this, we value this less. So since we value this less and we value this more, if we want to do spiritual objects to reach a mind of evenness and no attachment, we have to offer this and not this. Everybody understand that? Because we, on a very simple level, because we pay more for gold than we would pay for aluminum. For us to pay for that gold, we have to have had that money. In order to have had that money, we must have had more blood, sweat, and tears, and effort, and thinking. In order to have that blood, sweat, and tears, we must have had so much education. In order to have so much education, we must have invested that much time. In order to invest that much time, we must have sacrificed a lot of pleasure and happiness and good things in our life in order to have that money to buy that gold. So when we buy that gold, it is not just the intrinsic value or the imputed intrinsic value. Imputed intrinsic value of that gold that's creating the merit. It is also sacrifice behind it, because on a relative level, people's thinking is, I sacrifice, I educate, I don't go out, I don't have friends, and I go study, I have an education, and then I get a degree, and I get a good job, and I have a good money, and this money should buy me happiness. A car, a nice house, a relationship, good clothes, good food, I can travel, and I can be free. So people's view is on that. So when they buy something like gold, it doesn't directly benefit them when they offer it to Buddha, so they think it doesn't bring them happiness. Why? It doesn't bring them happiness, not because it doesn't, because they don't understand the effects and the practice and the workings of karma. So therefore, someone who spends this much time getting that much money, and they'll offer it to something that they don't get direct benefit, a car, a house, a relationship, a money, friends, a trip to, to the south of Tokyo, I don't know what. If they don't get that direct benefit, and they spend that money, it shows you that they already have some kind of detachment to material objects practiced from previous lives. That's why we praise people who sponsor, we praise people who can sponsor, and sponsors themselves rejoice. Why? For a person to be able to sponsor shows you some degree of detachment. And that degree of detachment must come from a practice that comes from a previous life. And therefore, when people are able to donate a lot, and it isn't just money, it is time, it is effort, it is their education, it is their skills, and most important, their free luxury time. Because all of us has to work, all of us has to do things to sustain our life. And so when we are able to donate our free luxury time, and we give that freely to the Dharma, it shows you we are really committed to benefiting others. And how are we committed? Because we have actually studied, meditated, and listened, and thought about the benefits of benefiting others. And therefore, we're able to commit. Those who are not able to commit to the Dharma, donate to the Dharma, give time or find time for it, those people, we can put them in a category that's not very pleasant, but very selfish. Very, very selfish. Why? They don't see the value and the benefit directly of benefiting others, so they prefer to do something else that they think has direct benefit. That's why. So they rather sleep instead of doing Dharma. They rather make excuses than doing Dharma. They rather go out instead of Dharma. They rather have parties instead of Dharma. They rather spend their money on boats and yachts and luxuries and houses and cars instead of Dharma. They rather use their money to go on trips instead of Dharma. They rather make excuses for not doing work instead of Dharma. They rather say that they can't do it, they forgot, or it's difficult for them instead of doing Dharma. Why? Because these people are very, very latently, deeply selfish. And for many lifetimes, their practices, life after life after life, have supported this selfish attitude. So because many lifetimes are supporting this selfish attitude, this life, they're very easy to adapt towards selfishness, meaning not giving time to the Dharma, not improving themselves, not transforming themselves, not donating, not helping, not dedicating their lives to the Dharma, or part of it to the Dharma. See, how much a person can dedicate towards the Dharma is how unselfish they are. Why? The Dharma has no direct benefit for the person. Has no direct benefit that you can see, but it has many benefits. But it has direct benefits for others. For someone who can work for no benefits and indirect benefits, it shows you the type of mind that they have. So a person who will go out on a date with someone gorgeous, and they feel that brings them happiness, and they say, oh, I won't do Dharma, I won't write or something, it shows you the level of their mind. What's the level of their mind? They want direct benefit. And they fool themselves because there is no direct benefit in Dharma, in samsara actions. None. None. It all leads to unhappiness. So people who have attachment towards wealth, time, skills, talents, and energy, if they have attachment towards that, it will manifest very clearly when they are asked to do something that has no direct benefit. Why? They'll be hesitant, they won't be good at it, they'll be lazy, and they'll find 100 excuses of why they can't do it. And they'll always be late for it. They'll always forget about it. They'll have to be reminded. They have to be pushed. They have to be prodded to do anything of benefit to others. Why? Because they are latently extremely selfish. And if they're extremely selfish, what's the bad point about that? You can disassociate with them completely, but that will be the very cause of their destruction, their unhappiness, their loneliness, and their wandering in samsara. So you label them selfish, not to put them in a category that they're evil. You label them selfish in a category of their samsara is that deep that they create more samsara within their samsara. Does everybody understand that? So therefore, those type of people we have a special compassion for. Whether they can receive our compassion or not is a different situation. Whether they can receive or not, we have to keep trying. But whether they can receive or not is whether they're receptive and how much practice they've done. So therefore, people who can give their time for the Dharma and be effervescent for the Dharma and be awake for it and be alert for it and make their schedule for it and they turn their lives around for it and they donate to it, they give to it, they help to it in any way, shape, or form, they can do it. It shows you that they have developed some type of detachment from their previous lives. This detachment that they have developed will be the cause of future wealth. Spiritual and material. Listen to me carefully. This detachment that they have will be the cause of their future wealth. So people who feel, if I buy cars, if I buy women, if I buy diamonds, if I buy corals, if I buy sapphires, if I buy a house, if I buy all these couture clothes, this will bring me happiness, but I'll just buy one silver bowl to offer to the center. The very cause for them not to have things has been put down. Why? Everything they bought and everything they've used is for samsara, and the one thing that brings them liberation is very small. Whereas people that say, no, I will donate to the Dharma. I will spend, this much for the Dharma, a whole set of bills, and I'll cut out on this. It shows you some kind of detachment. It shows you that they have realization of the value of this object towards the ultimate goal, happiness. And so this type of thought cannot arise like that. This type of detachment cannot arise just like that. This type of detachment must arise from practice. So these beings who are able to donate generously to the Dharma financially, donate generously their time. They don't make excuses for work and family and commitments and profession, because those are all lies. Those are all lies. And they can give their time, they can give their money, they can give their energy, they can give their skills and talents to the Dharma. This shows you some level of attainments. Attainments of what? Detachment. What type of detachment? Not grasping towards objects that have no intrinsic value at all. Why? They have cut this imputation down to a lesser degree. When you have detachment, your imputation of intrinsic value becomes less. Why? Either or cannot be both. Imputed means something that doesn't exist, but you feel it exists on some basis, but the bases are false. Therefore, when the bases are removed, the imputation is removed. So imputed value means that object doesn't have intrinsic value. Intrinsic means something that really has value. Gold actually doesn't have value. You can take gold and take it to some part of the world where there are jungles, they don't know anything about gold. Give it to them, they don't know, they don't know what, they just want your head and shrink it. Right? I mean, that means that the value of gold is imputed. Imputed means it is only by our belief that it's valuable. But intrinsic value is life. Wherever you go, the loss of life is valued. Even killing an enemy, that's very valued. He lost his life, that's valuable. Or saving a life is valuable. So life is not imputed. Value of life is not intrinsic. It's not an imputed intrinsic object or phenomenon, but it is real from its own standing, from its own point of view. You understand? So therefore, if you take life, you go anywhere around the world, it's valued. Even in animals, if you try to kill them, they run because they value their life. So this life is not, here it's valued, here it's not valued. Unlike gold. Gold, here it's valued, but here it's not valued. You take it to a Mahasiddha, you give them gold, they just throw it into the forest. So that means gold value, the value of gold is not intrinsically valuable. It's only imputed. Imputed means it has no basis. So therefore, But if you go to a Mahasiddha and you want to kill somebody, he'll do everything he can or she can to stop you from killing, because even to a Mahasiddha of an enlightened level, the value of that object is not imputed, it is intrinsic, meaning it arises from itself. Does everybody understand that? So when you have detachment, that means you have some lesser percentage of imputed intrinsic value. So if you have less imputed intrinsic value, you're leaving samsara. Why? If you have less imputed intrinsic value or attachment to things, that means some basis for it has been removed. So if some basis has been removed, it becomes less. Then you remove it, less. Then you finally remove it all, you become a Buddha. Does everybody understand that? So the art of generosity and the art of giving in Tibetan Buddhism or in Buddhism, the art of giving, the art of serkim, the art of offering, the art of the bowls and silver and gold, and the art of doing this, and the art of generosity is based on having less imputed intrinsic value on phenomenon. Emptiness. So if I have wealth, and an example, if I have wealth and I have to look wealthy because I'm generating funds for the dharma, because I have to approach more wealthy people, and I'm keeping that for the sake of promoting dharma, is that bad karma? Then can't you keep your luxury and be detached? Okay, so what's your problem now? That's only one motivation. There's many. What's your problem? So therefore, someone like the Dalai Lama has incredible wealth, but they're detached because they have this karma to receive it by giving away, and whatever they receive, they just give, they just give, they just give. They never run out because they create the causes to keep getting. So the causes of getting wealth is not keeping, it is to give. And if we're keeping, it is to receive to be a more benefit to others. So for people who have wealth and people who live in wealth, who can acquire wealth, it's extremely dangerous. It may be glamorous and nice and beautiful at this moment, but it's extremely dangerous because if your mind is not practiced, it can be the very cause of you to reach very, very lower depths of samsara, also in this life. Why? You may have a lot of money around you. It doesn't mean you're happy, not depressed, dependent on some substance, being used, feeling empty, feeling lonely, suicide, doesn't mean anything. In fact, if you look at a lot of people, more ratio of famous, beautiful, rich, powerful people who commit suicide than poverty-stricken people. I'll tell you why. Some superstars, my theory, some superstars like Aliyah and all that, who at 23 they become superstars, powerful, wonderful overnight, they die suddenly. Why? Their merit ran out. If they had not become that, their karma ran out. If they had not become that, their karma would have lasted a lifetime. But because they use that karma, all their investment into one department, fame, and all the praise, and everybody thought wonderful, and money is used up immediately. They die. Why? Karma is used up. That's my theory. So if you look at more powerful people, rich people, and beautiful people, in fact, there's more cases of depression among people who are very beautiful and attractive than those who are not. Why? In order to have that, they have to use some part of their karma. And it drains their karma bank to have that. So they may have the beauty, but not the happiness that comes with it. So we have to be very careful when we don't have that knowledge. So we don't want to drain our karma bank on useless, stupid, ridiculous things that will take away from other parts of our life. But we don't want to do that. Because the fall can be sudden and instant. Sudden and instant. And therefore you hear about these people who take tremendous precautions to keep their wealth, and all of a sudden overnight they lose everything. They commit suicide. The crash that came, how many people in Thailand became rickshaw drivers and just died and committed suicide? I read it in the papers when I was in Malaysia. And there are people who care nothing about their wealth. They don't care nothing about anything. All of a sudden they just get all this inheritance, they get all this money, someone gives them, they win the lottery, they're instant millionaires overnight. What is that? Oh, is that God? No, that's karma. That is karma. So the materials we use for statues, offering bowls, stupas, decorations, the materials we use do not have intrinsic value. It is imputed. Since it is imputed intrinsic value, and we operate on a relative level, then if we spend more for gold to offer onto something, we collect more merit. If we do not have imputed intrinsic attachment to the value of objects, if we offer stainless steel to the Buddha or gold, then there's no difference at all. Therefore, in high meditation masters' huts and retreat places, you will say, well, look, His Holiness so-and-so offers clay offering bowls to the Buddhas. Why can't I? Because he's enlightened and you're not. Well, why is it that high masters don't do that and I'm supposed to follow their example? What? And they're all using, aluminum bowls, so I want to follow his example because it's His Holiness, blah, 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 blah. How silly of you. He has no attachment to intrinsic imputed value of an object. Therefore, whatever he offers is the value of gold. Whereas we have attachment and grasping toward imputed intrinsic value of things. Because we have attachment, if we offer aluminum, we get the merit of aluminum. Very simple. What you offer and how you offer is based on your attachment. So in order to counter that attachment, one method, very careful, one method is to offer things of value that you ordinarily would dare not, because you don't see direct benefit. So therefore, in the Tibetan practices, because, now listen carefully, in the Tibetan practices, where in Tibet, in the beginning, offerings and objects of offerings were sparse. Therefore, the offering objects that contain the offerings, we made it more beautiful, and we made it more intricate and more expensive. In Tibet, when offering objects were sparse, then the objects used, or the containers used for the offerings, became more beautiful and more intricate and more fabulous. Why? Because the objects themselves were very sparse, not easy to get. For example, one great offering object in Tibet was water. You like offer water. In Malaysia, you say offer water. What's the big deal? Because water is nothing. Here, maybe if you offer milk, it's fabulous. But you see, in Tibet, milk was not easy. Tea was not easy. Tea leaves were not easy. Unless you were rich, you're not able to get tea leaves. The only thing people had were water. So if they offer water, just water, it doesn't collect much merit. How about those very rich people who had plenty of water? Like everybody has water. Water's free. What's the big deal? So for those people who can use their wealth to bring benefit to others, they use their wealth. Instead of using a ceramic cup to offer water, they use a silver cup to offer water. You understand that? So the best grade of offerings is like this, from this level. Clay. Next one is copper. The next one is silver. And the next one is gold. That is the division of classifications of offering containers to be used in merits. I mean, if you have to put it into a direction. Clay, porcelain, those type of things, are made from the ground. Copper is the next one that's best up. Next one after that is silver. The next one after that is gold. So if you're going to offer simply water, the object from the water doesn't collect you much merit, but the container collects you merit. Why? Because instead of using it for silver bowls, you could have used it for a new car. You could have used it for a nice, a trip to Hawaii or Tahiti or Japan. But instead of using that trip, you sacrifice your trip that you don't get direct pleasure into an offering bowl, which you offer to the Buddha using just simply water. When you do that every single day, the value of that grows and grows and grows. Because why? This represents your sacrifice. This represents your direction. This represents your correct focus on what really brings you happiness. What really brings you happiness is merit generated in conjunction with the 3 jewels, as opposed to direct pleasure of going on a trip. So you collect more merit using precious objects. You collect more merit using precious objects, A, on a relative level, because of the sacrifice. Instead of using it for something that's samsaric, you use it for something that's non-samsaric. B, because ordinarily the things we offer to the 3 jewels are very basic substances. Then the objects, the containers we use them in, becomes extraordinary, holding the basic substances, which increases the merit. 3, you see, this could have been something, this could have been a piece of jewelry you wore. This could have been something beautiful you wore and you can show off and you can impress people, pick up girls or whatever, But instead, you put it in front of the Buddhas. What do you get, for God's sakes? You go out there, you don't wear silver. So for you to become detached to objects that have imputed intrinsic value, you cut that detachment. And 4, when you offer valuable objects to the 3 jewels, you collect the base karmic causes for you to obtain wealth in this life and future lives. Why? By offering wealth, you collect the merits of getting wealth. Now, the type of wealth you get back in this life and future lives, whether it's lasting or not, depends on your motivation in making this offerings to the 3 jewels. Example, in order that my parents live long and I get a good job and I have a happy life, I offer you silver bowls. Offer this in temple for me every day. That's karma. So once you get your beautiful girlfriend, once your parents has a long life, it doesn't help you in your next life anymore. The value is gone. I offer these silver bowls to Kichara house, and they use it every day to offer to Shakyamuni, and the value and what I've offered every single day, I dedicated that all sentient beings may be free from suffering, illusion, delusion, and may I become someone that can benefit them tremendously. May I become a Buddha. And every single day when they offer these bowls, the merits generated will go towards that, and it will not stop till you become a Buddha, and you'll have long life, and you'll have a wonderful girlfriend, and you'll have a good job. Why? Because the lower motivations are included with the top motivation. Where if you make a motivation here, none of this is included. If you make a motivation here, all this is included. And why does this have power? Because you are offering this to something that you ordinarily would not channel towards because of your own miserliness and greediness and attachment to imputed intrinsic value of things that do not have intrinsic value. Intrinsic value meaning something we impute to have, but it's not actually existing. Therefore, greed is based on imputed intrinsic value of material objects. Miserliness is having intrinsic imputed value of money. And those who are very attached and their imputation is very heavy, they're the ones that actually go to the 3 lower realms. Even if they don't do any negative karma, they don't kill, they don't steal, just holding their money and not using anything for it will be the causes for them to go to the 3 lower realms or to be born in a state where they're extremely miserly or a spirit. Why? They say, but I'm not doing anything. Yes, you're not. Physically and overtly. But subtly, you're holding on. And this subtle holding on is more powerful than overtly doing it. So people who don't kill, don't smoke, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, they don't do anything. But they hold on to the money, they don't share, they're very calculative. They just hold on like this, like this, like this. They collect very negative karma. Why? Because on a subtle and on the most subtle level, they are grasping at imputed intrinsic value of something that does not. So they make their samsara deeper and deeper. And those type of people, they become more miserly, more greedy, more close, more. And if you look at these people, no matter how much wealth they have, they can never ever share it and they can never enjoy it. They reach the point where they can't even spend it on themselves or the people they love. Because why? Holding on to it so tight creates the actual demerit for them to hold it on tighter. And that holding on tighter makes them lose it all. Does everybody understand? So the demerit we collect doesn't have to be overt and gross. It can be a subtle type of demerit that we collect just by our mind grasping at it. So people who say, hey, I'm not doing any negative karma. I'm just holding on to my money. I'm just holding on to my things. You just look at them, you go, when the time comes, you're finished. You know why? Because they don't understand the workings of karma. They do not understand. So for those people who have very great grasping to money and wealth and holding on to their things and not spending and being very miserly, for those people, the practice of mandala is very important. The practice of mandala, the practice of generosity, the practice of giving towards the dharma is very, very important. Why? Because when they do that, they cut the very causes for them to have attachment towards their wealth and simultaneously create the merit to have more wealth in the future. Wealth that is shared and benefiting others, not only yourself. Does everybody understand that? So offering precious objects is on an ultimate level, listen carefully, offering expensive, precious items, whether it's gold on the Buddha statue, jewelry on the Buddha statue, brocade, or making offerings to one's lama, building temples, sponsoring dharma books, any of these type of giving. When we offer on the highest motivation, we are directly cutting into imputed intrinsic attachment of objects. That's very deep. When you cut that, that is your grasping at a very subtle level at objects. When you cut that, you will see the very causes for you to have no material objects will be removed completely. So when you use precious objects to offer to the Buddhas on a very subtle and deep level, you are cutting away at the self-grasping I. Why? Having imputation on intrinsic value of things that don't have value on their own is not intrinsic. It's only imputed. Helps to serve your self-cherishing mind, which does not exist. And then on a mediocre level, when you offer very valuable things, on a very mediocre level, you create the very causes for you never to have poverty again. Never. And then on a very rough, gross level, you make the Dharma grow, you make the needs of Dharma grow, you make the needs of Dharma farers and Dharma practitioners and potential Dharma people grow, because you provide the facilities and the necessities for people to come and engage in Dharma. So on 3 levels, you benefit. On a gross level, on a medium level, and on an ultimate level. So if we can do and give and sponsor and help on an ultimate level, you are cutting away at grasping of self-cherishing mind. Why? Because one branch of it, imputation, is cut. Imputation means something that doesn't exist, but we think it exists. But when we remove the causes, we actually see it doesn't exist. That is called imputation. We're going toward the teachings of emptiness, by the way, on that. That's why it's very difficult. We need to do prostrations, we need to do manjushri, we need to do retreats to understand it very clearly.